The Thunder take a commanding 3-1 lead over the Timberwolves in the Western Conference Finals. Also, the Knicks avoid a 3-0 hole against the Pacers with yet another crazy comeback win. And Tarik Skull's 13 Ks lead the Tigers to another win. I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
You're watching a Thunder team gain battle scars and experience and all these things we talk about around teams. You're watching it happen in real time. You're watching them implement it in real time. Tonight was a game of responses in more ways than one. At individual levels, at the team levels, in the big picture of it all, in the true 48-minute game, response after response after response. Like, obviously, the intensity, the physicality, the effort, the defense, it was night and day different for Oklahoma City, and it was enough to get them a win tonight. But everyone should respond when you get your lunch handed to you by 42 points in a Western Conference Finals game. You dang sure better respond, right? Like, that's not the impressive part. The impressive part was after getting blown out 42, by 42 points in Game 3, in Game 4 on the road, you had a response for every single Timberwolves run. Every single Timberwolves flurry of buckets was met by a Thunder counterpunch, was met by the Thunder steadying the waters, getting the car back on the road, as they like to say. And that's tough to do. When the crowd is rocking, when you've let some leads slip, it's tough to regain that balance, to regain kind of that equilibrium about yourself, so to say, and get a win. And you never got down by more than 2 points in a game that had 6 lead changes and 2 ties, and you grew an 11-point lead at one point in this game to start the third quarter. And after that 11-point lead, you saw it evaporate to be tied in the third quarter, and it still wasn't enough to shake this Thunder crew. They respond yet again. This has been a season full of responses. This was a game full of responses. And the Thunder Stars played at a super high level, and Minnesota's didn't. And Minnesota will be kicking themselves. Like, when you look at this game and see all the different ways that they got contributions from their, role players, and all the different ways that you didn't get contributions at the top. The Thunder made Julius Randle's life miserable. I mean, they forced him to put the ball on the deck. They forced him to give it up. And they forced him into tough looks with playing underneath him and attacking him at the catch point and already being into his body as he's receiving the basketball. Anthony Edwards, he couldn't get shots up. I mean, this is one of the best players in the NBA, and he couldn't get a shot up because unless he was going to play hero isolation basketball, he wasn't going to get the ball back. Because the Thunder forced the ball out of his hands, and they could never redirect the pass back to Ant. They could never give it back to their star because either A, they just didn't have the tools to do so, right? The facilities for that of the complementary playmakers, or B, because the Thunder were so willing to live with these role players going off and not panic when these role players were having great nights that they would be silly to pass up these looks in favor of going back to Ant. And so, you forced Ant to not take any shots and Randle not to take any shots for all intents and purposes. And with Randle, with Randle, he legitimately just didn't shoot the basketball. He had 7 attempts. But Anthony Edwards did have 7 free throws on top of the 13 shot attempts. But for his standards, that's not a high shot attempt night. Even if you counted those free throw attempts, as individual shot attempts, in terms of the pair of free throws as one shot attempt, it still was not enough for him. And that was a huge credit to the Thunder's defense. So in the half court, they were great. In transition, I thought that they were great for most of the night, but especially at the end of the first quarter. And these are the little things that add up for OKC and that add up over the course of any game. Where Isaiah Joe bricks a 3 at the end of the first quarter, and Ihart in transition just sits down on Ant, forces Ant to loop around Ihart, head to the sideline, and that slightly longer motion of having to loop around Ihart and not just cut through the lane allowed AC to recover and defend Ant, but also forced Ant out of bounds and get the stop to stay up by 7 points at the end of the first. Whereas, if that missed shot turns into an Ant rim rocker and gets the crowd all riled up, and now all of a sudden you're only up by 5, and then the Timberwolves get a bucket out of the quarter break, and now you're up one possession, and all of a sudden that can start to snowball on you. But those little things were perfect for OKC, including right out of that quarter break, J-Dub gets a pick six, for a fast break bucket. And the Thunder were able to just respond, and they responded to their own adversity. We'll talk about how J-Dub, who was the star of this game, responded to individual adversity. We'll talk about how this Thunder offense in the third quarter went flat, at the starting segment of the third quarter, near the middling segment. And this was a tie game at the 4:25 mark. And they went from a tie game at 4:25 to being up by 5 to start the fourth quarter, eventually up by 7 in the fourth quarter. And then they had to grind it out at the end, playing the foul game and getting this win. You had the huge block by Chet Holmgren on Jaden McDaniels to ice the game as McDaniels was spinning through the lane. You weathered the storm of a really good Rudy game, a really just excellent Jaden McDaniels game. And then you had Gilgeous-Alexander Walker, who was incredible. You had Dante hitting big shots for Minnesota. It just didn't matter because you did all the little things right in the grand scheme of things, and especially in your late game execution. I mean, the only thing you could really point to as a bad execution point was the Shai turnover whenever Minnesota had to foul him. But outside of that, they handled the foul up three stuff perfectly, just like they did in Memphis.
You can stay up to date all year on the Oklahoma City Thunder by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Thunder on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. Your Locked On Sports Today coming up, a fitting place for the biggest basketball stories of the weekend. Indiana, the Knicks do it again with a 20-point comeback against the Pacers, and Caitlin Clark will miss time for the first time in her WNBA career. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. The Indiana Fever announced Monday star guard Caitlin Clark will miss at least 2 weeks with a left quad strain, which dates back to before the start of the season. The injury caused Clark to miss a preseason game earlier this month, but this will be the first regular season games Clark has missed at the professional or collegiate levels, as Clark will miss at least the next 5 games for the 2-3 Fever. The Hurricanes kept their Stanley Cup playoff hope alive with Game 4 win over the Panthers.
Talking about Frederick Anderson, my goodness, how about the great Dane himself? Like I said, his 5th career playoff shutout could not come at a better time for the Canes when they needed it most. Winning 3-0 in Game 4 in Sunrise, making huge saves left, right, and center, stopping Barkov, stopping Kachuk. Kulikov even had a breakaway, had a wide open lane at one point. He stopped them there, making the big saves when it was very much needed, especially with Barkov right there on the doorstep. Got a great centering pass, and Anderson came up clutch in that. And that's a big bounce back after having 2 games where he gave up 9 goals in the first 2 games of the series, having a 750 in each. Now he gets a shutout, his second one of this playoffs, actually, because he got it back against the Washington Capitals in Game 3. And it's a performance you really need, and you love to see it from him because it was very, very clutch at the right moment when they definitely need it.
Shohei Ohtani homered on the first pitch of the game in the Dodgers win over the Guardians.
It's Yamamoto Day, and this has become a thing, Vince. Whenever Yoshinobu Yamamoto pitches, he ends up leading our show because he is just absolutely locked in, locked on, whatever you want to call it. Yoshinobu Yamamoto is the man.
He's been that guy for the Dodgers. Last time out he pitched, we talked about him being the stopper for the Dodgers when they were in the midst of a tough streak. And not so much a stopper here, just 2 losses in a row, but some stability and some what you're going to get out of him. And he did exactly that. He gave him 6 innings. He gave up 2 runs ultimately, although he probably shouldn't have gave up 2 runs. They weren't entirely his fault. But yeah, I mean, this is a guy that's been like this from day one for the Dodgers. He continues to be this, and he's now set himself as the ace of the staff. Even when everyone gets back healthy, Yamamoto's still that guy.
And Francisco Lindor hit a walk-off. Well, it was a sac fly for the Mets, but they won.
The Mets, the longer this game went, and the longer this game stayed 1-0, and the more jams that the Mets bullpen put themselves in and out of throughout the course of this game, at least for me, the confidence grew that they were going to have an opportunity late in this game to tie it up. You've just felt like with the way Chicago has been playing all year, that they were playing with fire, keeping that game at 1-0 and never getting that second or third run across. If they made it 2-0, if they made it 3-0, I don't think we're having this conversation about a Mets walk-off victory. They didn't have the bats today. I know they had 7 hits. The timely hits were missing. The hitting with runners in scoring position were missing. They won this game on 2 sac flies. So it's not even like they got the big hit to win them the game. They got big hits to put guys into scoring position, but it was sacrifice flies that brought in the 2 runs. And so the White Sox allowed the Mets to hang around, And when you are a good baseball team like the New York Mets are, even on a day when you are struggling, even on a day when not everything is clicking on the hitting side, you find a way to win.
The Knicks made another one of their signature comeback wins Sunday night. This one from 20 points down to avoid a 3-0 deficit against the Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals. Alex Wolf and Gavin Shaw from Locked On Knicks win over New York's latest miraculous comeback.
106-100. The Knicks win over the Indiana Pacers. I was telling you before we started recording, I'm still like, I think we had complete opposite reactions while we were watching this game.
Yeah.
From what it sounds like, I was like in stunned silence, like that whole run back. And I think it's just it's easier to get hype about like a big comeback or potentially winning a game when it doesn't feel like the entire season is on the line. And I was just, man, I still feel it. I can't shake it. I still feel like overwhelmed by this one, man. Like, I really thought it was pretty much going to be over in the second quarter. I'm not going to lie to you. And the fact that the Knicks pulled this out of their hat again, I'll throw it to you with this great stat, a couple great stats pulled by, I'm going to be honest, I hadn't heard of this guy before today, so shout out to him. Greg Harvey at Between the Numbs on Twitter pulled 2 great numbers about this. The Knicks now have 3 20-plus point comeback wins on the road in the 2025 playoffs, 2 at Boston, 1 at Indiana. No other NBA team this century has done that more than once on the road in a single postseason. That's crazy. Also, the Knicks have 6 road wins in the 2025 playoffs by 6 or fewer points. That is the most by any NBA team in a single postseason of all time. I'm also going to, while you talk, I'm going to find there was another stat by someone at the Associated Press about what the Knicks have managed to do in these games where they're down by 20 points in the playoffs. It's like only has happened like in 2% of all playoff games in history. And they now account for a huge proportion of that number by doing this 3 times in one postseason. I'm flabbergasted. And this was just, I mean, just the latest in a long line of anyone who's ever said during these playoffs, like, this Knicks team isn't tough. This Knicks team is not mentally tough. Who was that on the Pistons that said that? We're more Malik Beasley, I think. There's like, we're more mentally tough than them. Yeah, that's all crap. I mean, if there's anything that this team is, it's these players have resiliency, and these players are extremely mentally tough to be able to make these huge comebacks time and time again.
Yeah, I think maybe we went through it in different ways. I was yelling and screaming the whole fourth quarter, but ended up in the same place. Like I've never had a roller coaster relationship like this in my life, and I just like I want to take a nap. Honestly, like I'm exhausted, but also like exhilarated because I cannot believe they kept their season alive. This was for I mean, I was going to say 2 quarters, but really, I mean, it was like they put together a little bit of a run to end the second quarter, but then through like the first 5 minutes of the third, it got really bad again. This was just an extraordinarily frustrating game. Tom Thibodeau, apparently, like he doesn't do anything like shorthanded. He doesn't play anyone, and then he says, you know what, DeLon Wright, you're in the rotation. Landry Shamet, you're in the rotation. Mitchell Robinson, you're a starter. All of a sudden, in that lineup to open the second quarter, obviously did not work very well. And then down the stretch of this game, like the lineup decisions again, I think come home to roost. Aaron Nesmith getting hurt when Indiana was still up by 13, like late third quarter or halfway through the third quarter, excuse me, certainly felt like a turning point. And yet the Knicks like kept having chances to come back. And it felt like every time they did, you get either Brunson or Cat, like a back-breaking turnover. I thought this was probably the worst playoff game Jalen Brunson has ever played as a Knick. 6 for 18, 1 for 5 from 3, makes the plays down the stretch, which we'll get to. And that leads you to this point in the fourth quarter. Well, I was going to say before that, both him and Cat just like turnovers that over and over again lead to dunks or threes in transition for Indiana. Just didn't feel like a game the Knicks are going to win. Didn't feel like a game in any world they deserve to win. And yet they find something to open the fourth quarter by going back to actually a very similar lineup they had at the end of the second quarter, where they decide to put in Wright, Shamet, Deuce, Hartcat. The only difference between that and the second quarter lineup was that Deuce, who picked up 3 immediate fouls and in 2 minutes and was banished for half this game, was in for OG Anunoby. That lineup struggled to start the second quarter. In the fourth quarter, it led to Karl Anthony Towns scoring 15 points in 4 minutes, 20 points in 7 minutes. And we're going to talk about Cat. We're going to get into like all the specifics of that run. He was extraordinary. I just want to note, and some people at home can call this agenda pushing, feel free. I don't think it's any coincidence that Cat plus shooting and real shooting, right? Like Deuce instead of OG. Maybe you could say Hart was out there, but like Cat with legitimate space to just barbecue Miles Turner, flambe him all the way back to Indiana. I guess they were in Indiana. Flambe him in Indiana, we'll call it. He had space and time to cook him, and like Turner has just zero chance in that matchup. But I think it all comes back to Deuce McBride being on the floor as someone who gives you point of attack defense that you just don't have from Mikal Bridges as he continues to struggle on the ball in this series. You have legitimate 3-point shooting. Deuce put together like a heroic one-man 7-0 run to end that third quarter. And then Tom Thibodeau had me ripping out my hair when he went back to the starting lineup over the final 9 minutes. And I think, honestly, this is maybe a crazy thing to say. I don't think the Knicks win this game if Jalen Brunson does not pick up his 5th foul and he's forced to go back to Deuce, because even though the Knicks offense slows down during that stretch, their defense was mostly exceptional. They benefit from a couple different Pacers shots going in and out. Josh Hart secures what was ultimately the game-winning rebound. Big Brunson floater, big Brunson free throws. Hart made his 2 free throws, and the Knicks are just barely able to survive this one.
Stay up to date all year on the New York Knicks by subscribing to Locked On Sports today and Locked On Knicks on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Coming up, Tarik Skull's first career complete game leads the Tigers to another win. Tarik Skull already has a Cy Young in his bag, but before Monday, he had never thrown a complete game in his Major League Baseball career. Locked On Tigers host Scott Bentley recaps Skull's 9-inning, 13K performance in Detroit's win.
I think all of baseball will be talking about Tarik Skull's performance today. If I'm putting together the rundown for baseball tonight or the Sunday night baseball pregame show, Tarik Skull is in that A block. 9 innings, 2 hits only, 0 runs, 13 strikeouts, and he did not walk a batter. And when you dive in even deeper to this performance, it truly is as dominant of a performance as you will see without being a complete game, or a perfect game, I should say. And I was talking with my brother who was at the game. I was talking to him quite a bit while he was at the game, and just what he was witnessing. I mean, you didn't see a 2-ball count for the Guardians until the 5th inning. Just insane, diabolical stuff from Tarik Skull on the mound. He was a little emotional post-game as well, talking about what it means to him and, of course, his wife and young boy, and just all of the emotions after a truly incredible performance after the Tigers needed it in losing the first 3 of the series to the Cleveland Guardians, so able to salvage one more. A few more notes on Tarik Skull. The swinging strikes is just insane. 26 swinging strikes. That's just, I mean, the guy had it. What else can you say? The guy had it. I'm running out of ways to describe it. So let's see what the comments have to see. All right. David Fly saying the price is going up. Yeah, that's another part of the conversation of Tarik Skull is when is that long-term contract going to be signed? Price is going up. That was an absolute gem. I'll eat Chris's cardboard crust ketchup sauce sawdust cheese pizza every day if it means Tarik never pitches for another team. I think we can all get on board with that. Hot and ready's for everybody if it means Tarik Skull is a Tiger for life. DT Lions jumping in. He says Skull is a superhuman. Pitching 100 plus at the end of the game is insane. Yes, great point from DT Lions. And I had that in my notes to get to. And if I was a better postcast host, I would have gotten to it sooner. But he's topping 100 miles per hour in that final ninth inning. Shades of old Justin Verlander, must-see JV, when he would get stronger and his pitches would get faster and the velocity would be turned up as the game got later and later and later. So amazing stuff all the way around.
We don't get enough of these performances. A complete game. Imagine that. Now, fans have to sit through combined complete games. Okay, that's called a game. If it's a no-hitter even, it's a combined no-hitter because the starter's not going to go more than 6. And you might get 2, 3, even 4 relievers. And then, isn't it everyone's favorite thing? The combined no-hitter. No, it's not fun. It's not as fun. You know what's fun? One pitcher for 9 innings. A pitcher going the distance. Not because you need them to eat up innings or because you need them to soak up the pitches because your bullpen is tired. This is not old school nonsense. This is a pitcher dialed in, 13 strikeouts, efficient work, and is allowed to go the distance. It's fun. Baseball could use a little bit more fun. And finally, the Raiders made history with a market-setting contract over the weekend, but you may not have even heard about it. Punter AJ Cole signed a $15.8 million extension, which makes him the highest paid player at the position, the highest paid punter in professional football, and $11 million in guarantees. That figure makes him the first ever punter to get 8 figures in guaranteed money. It's a new frontier for one of the league's best field position specialists. If you're catching this episode after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're a new subscriber to Locked On Sports Today, we're here for you with the biggest stories in sports every day. Coming up, can the Knicks steal both games in Indiana, or will the Pacers put a chokehold on this Eastern Conference final? So at least until tomorrow, stay locked on sports today.